Welcome to this live chat facility tutorial. We have had a lot of questions recently about the chat facility and how to use it, so let's get into the video. The chat facility is built with students in mind, with a tool that doesn't need to be parent or teacher led. Each of our pages are linked to the person behind the broadcast, even after it's finished, so you can always ask your questions and get a response about the broadcast. So, let's have a look at how to use the chat facility. To use the chat facility, the first thing to do is to type your comment or question into the chat box. You can now enter your screen name. Your screen name will show when you type your question or comment. Now you will see the chat facility ask for your email address. As I mentioned before, each of our pages are linked to people from the organisation who can reply to your questions. You can enter your email address, which will not be shared with anyone, to get a direct response from the people behind the broadcast. If you do not want a direct response, then click the button at the bottom. People behind the broadcast can still respond to you if you don't provide your email address. This just means you may have to come back to the page to check the response. You can now speak to the people behind the broadcast and ask any questions you may have, or check out our partner pages to see the companies we work with who you can speak to right now about their current vacancies. You can also check out our careers page, which connects you to employers. Our live chat service is linked 24/7 to employers from a wide range of sectors, all waiting to hear from you. You can leave a question about how to produce a professional CV or how to prepare for interviews, anything work related, and one of our businesses will respond to you directly. You can also access a wide variety of live interactive broadcasts and video on demand with the live chat support on all pages. Now this bit is for the parents, guardians and teachers. The best bit about the live chat facility is that it is completely moderated, so you don't need to worry if your young person leaves a silly comment, as it will only show on their screen and no one else's. Another great thing about the chat facility is that it is GDPR protected, so no information is shared with anyone else. We will protect all email addresses and will never share personal information of the young people. If you have any questions about the chat facility or the Learn Live channel, please use the email us icon at the top of the page. Thank you, stay safe and stay tuned. Welcome to this live chat facility tutorial. We have had a lot of questions recently about the chat facility and how to use it, so let's get into the video. The chat facility is built with students in mind, with a tool that doesn't need to be parent or teacher led. Each of our pages are linked to the person behind the broadcast, even after it's finished, so you can always ask your questions and get a response about the broadcast. So, let's have a look at how to use the chat facility. To use the chat facility, the first thing to do is to type your comment or question into the chat box. You can now enter your screen name. Your screen name will show when you type your question or comment. Now you will see the chat facility ask for your email address. As I mentioned before, each of our pages are linked to people from the organisation who can reply to your questions. You can enter your email address, which will not be shared with anyone, to get a direct response from the people behind the broadcast. If you do not want a direct response, then click the button at the bottom. People behind the broadcast can still respond to you if you don't provide your email address. This just means you may have to come back to the page to check the response. You can now speak to the people behind the broadcast and ask any questions you may have, or check out our partner pages to see the companies we work with who you can speak to right now about their current vacancies. You can also check out our careers page, which connects you to employers. Our live chat service is linked 24/7 to employers from a wide range of sectors, all waiting to hear from you. You can leave a question about how to produce a professional CV or how to prepare for interviews, anything work related, and one of our businesses will respond to you directly. You can also access a wide variety of live interactive broadcasts and video on demand with the live chat support on all pages. Now, this bit is for the parents, guardians, and teachers. The best bit about the live chat facility is that it is completely moderated, so you don't need to worry if your young person leaves a silly comment, as it will only show on their screen and no one else's. Another great thing about the chat facility is that it is GDPR protected, so no information is shared with anyone else. We will protect all email addresses and will never share personal information of the young people. If you have any questions about the chat facility or the Learn Live channel, please use the email us icon at the top of the page. Thank you, stay safe and stay tuned. Welcome to this live chat facility tutorial. We have had a lot of questions recently about the chat facility and how to use it, so let's get into the video. The chat facility is built with students in mind, with a tool that doesn't need to be parent or teacher led. Each of our pages are linked to the person behind the broadcast, even after it's finished, so you can always ask your questions and get a response about the broadcast. So, let's have a look at how to use the chat facility. To use the chat facility, the first thing to do is to type your comment or question into the chat box. You can now enter your screen name. Your screen name will show when you type your question or comment. Now you will see the chat facility ask for your email address. As I mentioned before, each of our pages are linked to people from the organisation who can reply to your questions. You can enter your email address, which will not be shared with anyone, to get a direct response from the people behind the broadcast. If you do not want a direct response, then click the button at the bottom. People behind the broadcast can still respond to you if you don't provide your email address. This just means you may have to come back to the page to check the response. You can now speak to the people behind the broadcast and ask any questions you may have, or check out our partner pages to see the companies we work with who you can speak to right now about their current vacancies. You can also check out our careers page, which connects you to employers. Our live chat service is linked 24/7 to employers from a wide range of sectors, all waiting to hear from you. You can leave a question about how to produce a professional CV or how to prepare for interviews, anything work related, and one of our businesses will respond to you directly. You can also access a wide variety of live interactive broadcasts and video on demand with the live chat support on all pages. Now, this bit is for the parents, guardians, and teachers. The best bit about the live chat facility is that it is completely moderated, so you don't need to worry if your young person leaves a silly comment, as it will only show on their screen and no one else's. Another great thing about the chat facility is that it is GDPR protected, so no information is shared with anyone else. We will protect all email addresses and will never share personal information of the young people. If you have any questions about the chat facility or the Learn Live channel, please use the email us icon at the top of the page. Thank you, stay safe and stay tuned.
Good morning, everyone. Yeah, thank you so much. It is lovely to see everybody this morning. Thank you. I think you can see I'm having a few technical issues. Obviously, the picture's a wee bit blurry as well. Thank you for bearing with us around registrations, and particularly with the delay this morning. It is technology on my side, I'm afraid, that is causing the issue. But we'll get going in a moment. It's just worth kind of putting this webinar in context. If you haven't been with us for the past two, it really does make sense to watch these in order if you can. So we have already kind of looked at the strategic plan, building a programme, and today we are kind of thinking about how we can pull out from that programme and present to stakeholders. Okay. By the end of today's webinar, what you will be able to do is present a careers programme informed by key strategic objectives and progressive learning outcomes that we've covered in previous sessions, but also start to understand effective presentation of your provision on your school or college website. I think it's important at this point to review previous modules under the processes that we've considered. So we started out considering setting a vision and strategic objectives to drive your planned impact and the purpose of your stable and progressive careers programme. In the last module, what we started thinking about was setting learning outcomes for each key stage as progressive steps towards students developing that personal effectiveness, career readiness, and the employability skills to support positive outcomes in education and employment. We then started to think about covering the process of auditing and mapping where learning outcomes were being covered in order to track, celebrate and record progress towards those positive outcomes, while also thinking about a gap analysis and plans to ensure full coverage for each and every student. So this session will really focus on how to present each key elements and information for multiple stakeholders. So it's worth kind of thinking about, first of all, who are the stakeholders? They are multiple, but what do they need to know about your strategic careers plan and careers programme? And that's what will shape this session. What I've got here is just a worked up example of something that we looked at last session. So we considered an audit document last week. And where we got to was we thought once you've identified your learning outcomes and you've audited these to see where and how they were being covered, that is essentially your careers programme. So you can see in that example, this is actually taken pretty much from my time as a careers leader in a school in the Northeast. You can see that the activities and what's populating this audit is from discrete career sessions. It kind of links to assemblies, tutorial times, but it also kind of is around being embedded in the curriculum as well. So you can see from this example, combined with notes that you may have included in the guidance to creating an effective strategy and building a progressive programme, that there's a lot of information here all of it's essential for you to know as a careers leader about how you're populating your learning, how your learning outcomes are being covered, and then working towards those strategic objectives and vision. But not everybody needs that level of detail. So we need to think about how do we kind of tease out from all of that information what multiple stakeholders, different stakeholders need to know. So key stakeholders to consider really are your primary stakeholder, obviously, are students, parents, carers, staff, SLT, governors, employers, and partner organisations as well from the community. And also, it was referenced last time that Ofsted obviously kind of looms large as well. And it's important that we make our information really clearly accessible for Ofsted, but really our primary stakeholders obviously are students. So all stakeholders want and need different information and insight into your strategic careers plan and your programme. So for today, I thought let's think about this question about what information stakeholders might need in terms of 3 prompts. What might they need to know about your intent? What might they need to know about your delivery and your activity? And what might they need to know about impact? If you've got ideas or you want to share practice that you kind of currently have, please do add that into the chat about kind of what you share with those individual stakeholder groups as we go through. So before we get specific about individual groups of stakeholders, let's think about what people might need to know and be able to do about your careers programme and your strategic careers plan in terms of intent. Obviously, it's important that people understand your vision, strategic objectives, learning outcomes, which show that planned impact. Might people need to know about statutory expectations, about career strategy guidance? That shows the context and expectations from government guidance. This is just thinking in general, this is the range of information that any one group might need to know about your intent. And as always, I'm keen to know in the chat if you think I've missed anything. This isn't for one particular group, this is potentially what any group might need. And we'll start thinking about finessing that a little bit in the next section. So I'm keen to know if you think there's anything else that anybody might need to know about the intent of your careers programme. Then we can kind of think about the delivery and activity. What information might stakeholders need to know in terms of that delivery or that activity? Some people might need to know benchmark progress. Depending on the stakeholder, it will look different in terms of what is presented, how and when. For example, current Compass scores versus your last submission might be relevant. Planned activity compared to actual activity might be relevant. Or your benchmark progress compared to national average or local average within your LEP or hub area, for example, might be important. It's also worth considering how to highlight specific benchmark progress so that stakeholders can understand your approach and delivery around benchmark 8, benchmark 7, with real attention to that statutory guidance around personal careers guidance, provider access, the Baker Clause, as well as highlighting possibly how benchmark 5 and 6 are met as key benchmarks that are highlighted in the career strategy and in the education inspection framework. It could also be that stakeholders might need to know how careers is embedded within the curriculum as well. And obviously kind of key events, activities, it may be of value to share a progressive overview of your programme to show how each element builds on what has gone before and prepares for the next stage. It could be that some stakeholders might need cohort level data. It might be by key stage, might be by year group, or it might be like a specifically identified cohort, as you can do in Compass Plus. You can create a specific cohort that may be informed by the school development plan or college development plan and your strategic objectives. It might be that some stakeholders might need student level data. And again, this is something that Compass Plus can help with and is absolutely can be really valuable. to track and present your programme to evidence and to know that your programme supports each and every student. Other stakeholders might really need to know or want to know about key partnership links, which may cover providers which add capacity, particularly potentially around benchmark 8 or benchmark 5 and 6, but also key employer links as well. So this is kind of what stakeholders might need to know about your delivery activity. Again, if there's anything else that you think that stakeholders may need to know about your programme and the delivery and activity within it, please do add some suggestions in the chat about what you convey already or any ideas that you have. Finally, let's have a think about what stakeholders might need to know about the impact of your careers programme. So we really need to focus on, obviously, destination data. It could be that some stakeholder groups would benefit from knowing about your evaluation process and the findings of your evaluation. Don't forget, in Module 4, we're going to come back to evaluation of your programme in more detail in the next and final session. Stakeholders might be interested in stakeholder voice and really kind of understanding and knowing not just what the process of that is, but also what came back from stakeholder voice and how that's been used to inform your programme. It might be in the interest of some stakeholders to think about the progress that students make around personal attributes, career readiness and employability skills. So the progress around those outputs that support the outcomes, like destination data, etc. Other bits that might be of interest or might be necessary for stakeholder knowledge could be key narratives, key threads that you might pick out from your careers programme, but also success stories as well, particularly about alumni as a way to really motivate, but also celebrate the success of your careers programme as well. So that's kind of the whole range, potentially, and I hope you've been adding more into the chat as I've been going through those potentially bits that I've missed. But before we start thinking about how we might package all this up and select elements from what stakeholders might need to know about intent, about delivery and activity, and about impact, let's stop for a minute for any questions, comments or reflections on the range of potential information that stakeholders might benefit from.
So thank you very much, Marie, for that. And good morning. I'm sorry for people having a few sound issues earlier. Good news is we've got Marie on a different line, so hopefully that looks better all round. And I think I'm happy with that. Thanks very much, Marie, for sorting that out. And also, just for those people who may have missed the beginning, this module, if you haven't worked it out already, will be based on presenting your programme and developing an effective site on your website for careers. This broadcast is designed really to take career leaders to reflect on the content of their careers programme and how it can be presented effectively for different stakeholders. The broadcast also supports career leaders to reflect on the presence of careers on the school website and how this can be enhanced as a showcase for the careers programme. Have I got that pretty much what this is all about, Marie? Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah, thank you for that. Obviously, we're just setting the scene a little bit here. We've done quite a lot in the last session around constructing a programme and quite a lot of detail around the different elements that would go into the programme and the delivery in different to be delivered in different ways. Then today is really thinking about how do you know what to pull out to give to different stakeholders, and really that's dependent on their need, what they want, where you are as a school or college. But I do think that it's worth taking the time to really think about which elements are there in terms of that intent, implementation of the delivery of the programme, but also the impact of the programme, who needs to know what. And although we're focusing primarily on website today, and as Kelly said, that is the next section, there's been quite a lot of discussion in previous sessions about SLT engagement and governor engagement. So really what we're kind of proposing today is that you would go through thinking about what do my governors need to know? What do my SLT need to know? What do they need to understand? Almost, as I've said, that kind of same process as the learning outcomes for young people. And then thinking about the format and what's available to you, whether you've got slots at SLT, whether it might need to be a briefing paper, etc. So, and I've just seen a comment come up about other sources. Definitely in terms of implementation of your programme, it's worth having key links for different stakeholders to click on. That's a comment from LV Kendall. So, you know, there's lots to consider, but it's really important that you think about very carefully who needs to know what and how can you make that message kind of really clear for those stakeholders.
Thank you, Marie. Thanks also to the career leaders telling us which school they're from. If you haven't, please let us know your school or college and drop it into the chat and where you are in the country as well. And apologies to Jackie, who I think thought she was in the wrong session. Thank you. I'm sorry to worry you, Jackie, that you actually were in the right session all along. It was just that we didn't actually describe it properly at the beginning. And hopefully now you feel like you found the right place for this useful information today. Thanks, Marie. Was there anything else before we move on to the second section, which is going to be more about the website, isn't it? Is there anything that's been coming in that you just wanted to pick up on?
Yeah, just one question. We'll probably come back to the website link questions, but just one question from R. Thorne. The evaluation is the final module, so questions about evaluation and feedback on the programme we'll pick up in module 4. So just a quick answer to R. Thorne there. Good
stuff. Okay, excellent. All right, thanks for that, Marie, and thank you again for everybody letting us know. Someone not far from you there in Sunderland, your neck of the woods, isn't it, Marie? Or near enough, anyway. It all sounds the same to me, that area, sorry. But you've got them coming in from all over, so it's good to see. And thank you again to your colleagues. It's worth mentioning Kelly and Rachel doing a great job already on providing links. So while Marie's chatting away, Rachel and Kelly will help you on the live chat. Thanks very much. We're going to now hand back to Marie to present part 2 of module 3. Thanks, Marie.
We're going to start today thinking about your website as a way of supporting stakeholders and different groups to effectively access and understand your careers programme. As we go through this section, this process can equally be applied to SLT engagement and governor engagement. There's been some brilliant dialogue and interaction in the chat from colleagues, from participants, about how do we really ensure SLT buy-in, governor buy-in, but also bringing staff along and colleagues. So the processes that we talk through about selecting the information for the website, we can kind of do the same things, the same process when you're considering that selection of information and the regularity of presenting that information when thinking about SLT engagement, staff CPD or engagement, and governor as well. But for today, I focused on the website, which kind of a colleague the other day described as your shop window, if you like, for your careers programme. So multiple stakeholders will be accessing your website, and they'll all have slightly different needs. For every stakeholder, you've got to almost repeat the process that we considered when we thought about setting learning outcomes for your careers programme. And that really is about what information should be included on your website and really putting it through that funnel of what do people need to know, understand, and potentially be able to do when we're kind of going into the realms of CPD for parents, carers or staff. So it is really, really similar to that thought process. What do students, teachers, employers, parents, carers need to know, understand, and be able to do? And I'd be really interested in if you've got comments as we go through about particular things that get a lot of traffic or get really good feedback that you put on your website. What gets that kind of really good click through, what's well received on there. So this is kind of a bit of an example, that thought process. So what I've done here is pretty much just gone through all the ideas about what people might need to know about the vision, about delivery activity, about the impact, and almost going through kind of what on a website, go through this as a process. Is that relevant? Looking at that first column around vision, there's an argument that all stakeholders need to understand your vision, and that needs to be shared with them. And a really good comment that came up in the last module was that absolutely those key stakeholders should be involved in setting that vision, as well as being reminded and being aware of it and understanding it. But there's other bits there that you would put across for some stakeholders and leave a blank for others. So it's worth kind of just going through that filtering. So once you've gone through that thought process of what information each stakeholder group might need in order to be able to know and understand the things that you want them to, then we can start to think about how to present it. And for today's session, obviously we're thinking about website, but obviously there are other ways to present your programme and present this information, whether it's through briefing reports, newsletters, PowerPoint presentations, CPD sessions, etc. But for today, we're going to really think about the website. So it's really important, first of all, that your career section is easy to find. In researching for this presentation, this is something that isn't always the case for schools and colleges. So it's not always easy to locate where career sits, and I find that really, really interesting. We'll think in a minute about statutory guidance and how it's really important that key information is prominent. In terms of a shop window, we have got to be mindful of Ofsted, and it is one of the places that Ofsted will go, obviously before a visit. So it's really important that key information is really visible and apparent, to prevent a potential trail. But wherever careers sits for you within your website, and it can be in many different places, from, as I say, from kind of clicking through lots of different school and college websites. Sometimes it's in student section, sometimes it sits within parent carers, sometimes it sits within a general information tab, or even in curriculum, which is great to see. And one thing that I would just kind of really be mindful of is instinctively it might be different across different schools or colleges, but that instinct might not be shared by the stakeholders who need to find that information. So whichever tab you put it in, I would almost kind of, obviously you've got your one content page or site or part of your website, but I would put links to your careers page in all of those tabs, all leading to that same place, because different stakeholders will visit different areas of your website expecting to find careers, and if it's not there, obviously that is a barrier. So try and feature careers on all likely tabs, taking them to the same content in your section of the website. We talked about thinking about spending time really thinking about what people need to know about careers, and this really will help streamline information to ensure that the most important elements of what you need people to know and understand aren't lost. We'll come on to statutory guidance, as I've said, in a minute, as there are really clear expectations about what must be on your website. This does include your programme. And we spent some time in the last module thinking about building your programme, and as we showed in the example in that first slide today, that can end up with being a lot of detail. So we want people to understand the vision, the objectives, the learning outcomes that will fulfil that vision, but not all stakeholders will need to see that amount, that volume of information. So we'll kind of think about how can that best be presented for stakeholders. So I do want to spend a little bit of time on statutory guidance, and really it is a question for you. Is it clear that you are meeting statutory guidance from your website? Is that information upfront, clear, really accessible? Because what we don't want is that people are having to click a lot to try and find this really key information. So in terms of provider access policy, there is an example provided in Annex A of the guidance, the government guidance for that you can replicate. obviously the link will be shared in the resource tab, so you can access that. On the Careers and Enterprise Resource Directory, there's also a website guidance document with suggested wording and useful tips from colleagues in Greater Manchester and Cornwall, and a useful website audit tool from colleagues in Liverpool as well. So it is just worth being cognizant of what the statutory guidance says that must be on the website, and then really giving thought to making sure that it's really easily accessible and really easily kind of understood as well, that you're meeting that statutory guidance. The other bit around the statutory guidance is really thinking about the impact as well. It is really crucial to think, is the impact of your programme apparent? Not just thinking about your planned impact, but really showcasing data outcomes, those narratives and those success stories as well.
Thank you so much, Marie, for going into the website and showing us how to support stakeholders and different groups, while showing how they can easily access and understand a school or college's careers programme. I'm pretty sure a lot of people have lots of questions and comments about that. I know you've picked up on a few, so shall we take a look at those?
Yeah, it's really interesting kind of seeing some of the comments come through. I can see my colleagues are very busy in the chat. Andrew and Rachel seem to be in a bit of a race to get key documents into the chat, so thank you so much. So there was a couple of points just that I've just spotted around the website examples. Like Kelly, Rachel and Andrew would echo, if you feel that you have got a strong website, please do share it with us so that we can share that with the network. So the examples that I'm given to look at are very much to consider. Please do have a look at other schools or the colleges. Really start thinking about what process have they gone through to make sure that they've got that key information. And I've seen some kind of comments popping through to really kind of think about that streamlining, to avoid just going all out for links, and thinking more about actually what information might be necessary. And what's lovely is the best practice shared around that careers newsletter. I love that idea because as somebody else said, parents particularly want to see those good news stories. They want to see that implementation. They want to see young people on those visits and start to kind of see a visualization of that impact, if you like. So that newsletter is a great place for success stories, key narratives, positive kind of trips, and then they can possibly be archived with key stories left on your website as well. And as somebody has said, they are very good evidence for Ofsted. So thank you again for the really good practice being shared. Kelly's referenced again the audit document in Benchmark 1. So please do have a look at examples. A colleague, Sven, has put an example in the chat, but please do then kind of put it through your own process about what is it that you want people to know. And the other thing to be mindful, I think I've seen it in the chat, is that not all people will be able to talk benchmarks. So really think very carefully about how you're presenting benchmark progress and things like that, and so that all stakeholders can understand it.
Okay, thank you, Marie. Was there anything else that stood out from the chat while you were presenting there? I noticed there was a comment about Illumini. We were on a little chat about that last week as well. I mean, what part do they play in all of this where possible?
It's a really, really good call, isn't it? And I think that plays into, again, that narrative that some stakeholders might need just to keep it around. Remember what we're doing this for. It almost kind of harks back to that vision. What is it that you want to achieve for your young people when they leave you? Alumni are the living kind of representation of that. So it's really important to keep alumni and their successes really real for people, whether that be on your website. You know, you can present your programme through displays in school, through newsletters, but alumni are walking, talking evidence of your impact and of your vision. So I think it's really important that they do feature, not just in the implementation so that they're meeting young people, but that stakeholders are really seeing the impact of what you've achieved for your young people as well. So it's a really good call.
Thanks, Marie. Thanks again for everybody sending your questions in. The live chat is still open, so keep getting those questions to us and the team. You've got Rachel, Kelly and Andrew. Sorry I didn't mention you before, Andrew. Thanks for stepping in as well. And there is a bit of a race on, I think, between the three of them there to try and get to the most links out this morning, but all really good stuff. Just remind people a couple of things. If you want to send any examples of the work you do, like best practice, if you could email them to education@careersandenterprise.co.uk, and then the team there will share them with other people on this call. Feel free to leave your comments about that, but ultimately send them to that email address. And also, do not share your email address on this thread. Obviously, we're just mindful of GDPR, so please don't put your email address on any of your comments. The guys at CEC will coordinate it all behind the scenes later on as we move forward with these modules. And again, just a reminder that if you've missed the first two, it's pretty important, I guess, to catch up on those. You mentioned that earlier. It makes more sense if you watch the first two modules, Marie, you were saying. And again, they're available on the CEC website. And I'm just going to ask, let's see who does it first, shall we? Kelly, Rachel, Andrew, go. Send us the link to the resource page on your website. Let's see who wins that race to get that one up first. Okay, now we've got to our final bit. This is a presentation of programme. So I'm going to ask Marie, if you don't mind, to take us through this next bit and keep your questions coming in as well. Thank you.
There is expectation in government guidelines and statutory guidance that you will present a summary of your programme. And I'm really interested to hear from you all how you currently do this. I've seen lots of different examples of descriptive paragraphs per key stages, some bullet points. We've also seen in previous chats on different modules that some careers leaders have developed learner journey. And it's really important that what is shared is a summary showing that progressive nature of the programme, rather than a calendar of events that people might struggle to understand the rationale or struggle to understand how what's there builds on what's gone before and prepares for what's next, particularly in terms of strategic objectives and vision. There is a tool that we've developed. It's not a tool really, it's a template that you can edit. It's featured on the screen here. It's available in the resource tab and on the resource directory as well. Again, around that kind of statutory guidance, there's space there to add your contact details so that that's really visible, but also to capture your vision statement at the top of this journey. And then really deliberately, we've kind of split the sheet in two. It is really important that people get a flavour of your key events and experiences, and they're on the right-hand side per year group, but you can do this via key stage. So what are the key events that you might expect to see? And that might be useful for employers, for parents, carers, but particularly for students. But then on the left-hand side is what kind of relates to really showing that it is a progressive programme. And this is where you can cherry pick out of that volume of information. So where you've really spent that time covering and identifying those learning outcomes, that's where you can showcase to people, this is what we're working towards at this school. So, by the age of year 7, these are the learning outcomes. I've called them milestones and learning outcomes because you may want to phrase it as by the age of year 7, our students will be able to. And it really depends how you want to capture that. But I think it is really useful to have something, however you develop it in your own house style, that shows not only some key activities and events, but absolutely where they fit with learning outcomes that you have and where they fit as a ladder towards that vision for your programme according to your strategic plan. So that template is available for you to edit and use as you will, but I am really keen to see examples and share examples from colleagues who have referenced that they do have their own learner journeys, because you've got to find the right one that works for your school or college. And it may not be that a learner journey is effective in your setting. So again, please do contribute to the chat. How do you convey to your stakeholders that you've got a progressive careers programme, and what do you include in that? So when somebody asks for your careers programme, what do you give them that really tells them, this is what I'm working towards and this is how I build towards that? There are some interesting examples for you to consider. These slides will be available through the resource directory and then the resource tab on the on demand for these modules. So these links are hyperlinked, but we'll put the links in the chat as well. So Walker Riverside Academy in the Northeast, English Martyrs School and College in Teesside, and the Key School in the west of England, which is an SEND school. So please do kind of have a look. But if you really feel, please be brave today as well. If you really feel actually our shop window, if you like, for careers is really strong, please pop the link in. We'd love to see it. Or if you know of any really good examples, please do share them, because this is something that's often a challenge for careers leaders, to know what exactly to put in that shop window. Just want to spend a little bit of time thinking about Compass Plus. There has been quite a lot of discussion around Compass Plus in the chat in previous modules. Please do get in touch with us if you need support in working with data teams, SLT, around embracing Compass Plus and understanding particularly how the data works around speaking to your MIS systems, because we can really support with that. We've got teams who can support and put colleagues' minds at rest about that. I just want to focus really around the digital tool and the added functionality that it gives. So Compass Plus is another free tool. It is an extension of Compass, so it does everything that Compass does already. So you can obviously kind of measure your benchmark progress, but it does have added functionality for you, for careers and for school leaders as well. It's particularly useful when you want to present benchmark progress with comparisons against previous Compass submissions, but also against national local averages and projected impact of planned activity. So it's really a useful tool to think of when you're thinking about engaging with SLT, Ofsted and governors. Crucially, Compass Plus also allows you to track at student level. Obviously, we really recommend that you have a tracking system at student level, whether that be in Excel, but Compass Plus allows you to do that at student level. And as I referenced before, you can create specific cohorts which can be created in line with your priorities as a careers leader, or potentially around school or college priorities and strategic objectives. Careers leaders can also input intended and actual destinations in here, which really facilitates the effective tracking of destination data. And you can put in data sharing agreements. You can record in terms of tracking your alumni and things. So it can be really useful around that benchmark 3, around tracking destination data. And that functionality is developing all the time. So please do, if you haven't considered onboarding onto Compass Plus as yet, it is a free tool, so I'm not on commission, but please do consider it. As a previous careers leader, it's a really strong tool that would have really supported particularly how I track and monitored, but also how I then presented my progress and progress towards outcomes of students. Just an example of kind of, some of the reporting that you can extract. This is something potentially that you might want to put in your website. Think very carefully about who might kind of want the information about your benchmarks, who might understand that language and kind of really be interested. Particularly Ofsted might want to see that up front. It may need some context and explaining for parents, carers and students, but there is some reporting about what that you can feature on your website. But as I said, particularly some of the reporting the infographics that you can, the graphics that you can download, and the ways that the reporting can be presented from Compass Plus can really strengthen and support reports for SLT and governance as well.
Thank you for that, Marie. And please don't forget to use that template that Marie discussed, which is available in the resource tab, both below this video and also on the Careers Enterprise Company website. And I know Kelly, who's Queen of the Links today, she's actually winning the race, I think, and all the... Thanks very much, Kelly, for your input. If you could put the link up again to remind people about where the resources are held. I know a few people have been asking about them in the chat. And that really will help you provide how to present your progressive programme overview for your website. So, Marie, I know there's a couple of things that you spotted on the chat. Is there anything that you want to just mention following what we've just seen about the website, etc.? Thank you.
I'm just kind of picking up this. Once again, we've got quite a lot of really good questions about Compass Plus. So I think Rachel's commented, please do, if you're in the network and you have an enterprise coordinator, please get in touch with them. But also, if you want that contact, I think there's some really direct questions. Please email us at education@careersenterprise.co.uk, and we can connect you with the Compass Plus team, particularly if it's around the data questions, but also if you're signed up and you're ready to onboard, we've got people that can support you through that process, who are working through lockdown to do that. The other kind of question that I've just spotted is around GDPR and tracking. So I think there was a discussion about alumni. There is a really good function on on Compass Plus around managing alumni. And I think there's a document in that resource directory that Kelly's put the link onto from, I think it's from colleagues in Lancashire, around benchmark 3 and destinations. And there's a really good process on there about how they manage that GDPR to then set themselves up for the 3-year tracking. So it's basically their overview. It's really well worth having a look about how the school approach that with support from local colleges and the local authority. But even if you're just looking at what the school does and how they approach that GDPR, it's really good practice to have a look at. So, but please, if you have got questions about Compass Plus, I see Jules's comment, Compass Plus still needs work doing. It is a really developing product. It's hugely exciting. It is for free. Somebody's asked about that, but for a free product, for the functionality of it, it is developing all the time, but it really is well worth considering. So if we can support you one-to-one with that and allay any of those concerns, please do work with us on that. It will be worth it.
Thanks, Marie. Great to see, again, people helping each other as well with resources, pointing people in the direction of their own website. And there will be schools, as you know, who've done some good work on this with the programme and getting it on their website. I think the idea is perhaps sharing some of them. And you mentioned before about how that can be achieved. So I think we'll look at that. Paul's asked, is there a basic tutorial video or web-based training on how to use Compass Plus to its potential? Do you want to take that one?
I think probably my colleagues are going to direct Paul to the site, that Compass Plus, to the site on the website. Yeah, I think it's probably the best place to start.
Great. Now you've opened it up now, a whole conversation around Compass Plus. But yeah, was there anything about that presentation then? I'm just going to ask everybody before we close today. Anything else about what Marie's presented that you want to discuss? Feel free to leave your questions on the live chat. Like last time, if you're familiar with the format, we'll keep the live chat open. I know people like to carry on the conversation after Marie has gone and got a well-deserved lunch break after all of this. But yeah, carry on those questions and Marie and the team will help you, I'm sure, with providing you with links, etc. And again, just to remind people, if you do have any ideas, comments, send them through to education@careersenterprise.co.uk. And I think that link has been up on the chat a few times if you want to just scroll back to find it. Thank you, Rachel. Rachel's put up the sign up for Module 4 already, so you can sign up there. for the next one. We also are going to be repeating this live again. So if you did miss it or you're a little late joining, don't worry. You can join us again tomorrow afternoon at 4:30 in the same place as you are right now. And an on-demand version of this thing, if you want to watch it at another time, will be made available on the main on-demand page, which is modules 1 to 4, benchmark 1. Again, I'm just going to ask the team to put the link up to that, and also where you can find those on the Careers Enterprise Company website as well. And I just want to say thanks, Marie, for that. I don't know if there's anything else that's coming through on the chat apart from everyone saying how great a job you've done today, of course. It's also just worth mentioning all those resources that you've discussed and the slide deck. They'll be available, won't they, to people?
Yeah, they'll be available in the resource directory, and Sue, that's where the GDPR document will be as well. So it is in the resource directory. I'm sure one of my colleagues will pop it in, but it's under benchmark 3. But all of this, the slides, any attached resources, will be available in the resource directory. And thank you for the lovely feedback, Sveta. That's really appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can, again, keep the live chat coming. I mean, we've got people still asking questions about Compass, so keep them coming in, or anything to do with the slides that you've seen. We will stay open on the live chat for a little while after this. Okay, and just a reminder, modules 1 and 2 are available on demand. So if you're going to go back to the Careers Enterprise Company website, you can listen back to what you may have missed, and it probably make a little bit more sense, this section as well, wouldn't it, Marie, if you've watched modules 1 and 2?
Yeah, this one really follows on. They should flow kind of one from the other, so please do try and kind of watch them in an order. And then we're due to finish, obviously, on the final one. But it is still cyclical, because we're going to look at evaluation and then how that can inform your intent and your implementation and then your impact. So we're going to close the loop next time with evaluation of your programme.
You've just taken the words out of my mouth there, Marie. I was just going to say, actually, it's okay. You'll be back with module 4 next week. So next week, same time, Tuesday at 11 a.m. And that'll be repeated again Wednesday at 4:30. So we're back tomorrow. I know you get another group of people back tomorrow who've been following you on the Wednesday at 4:30, but you're more than welcome. If you attended today and you may want to get involved again, feel free to join us tomorrow at 4:30 on this page. And like Marie just said there, module 4 next week, where you'll be showing us how to identify an effective process for evaluating your careers program. Very important part of the whole process. Right, Marie, well, that was practically an hour. Well done for keeping on time. Thank you for that. We always appreciate if we can keep within the time constraints we've set. And thank you for all your feedback on the live chat as well. I know Marie appreciates that. And thanks again to Kelly, Rachel and Andrew for your support on the live chat today. I know that's appreciated by everybody who took part.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Marie. Any final words, or are you good with what you've seen? Anything that you want to add?
No, honestly, again, I think it's been really lively in the chat. I think you've hit the nail on the head. There's been some brilliant practice shared, some really good links for us to look at as well. So thank you to colleagues for sharing. It's really, really appreciated.
Yeah, you're more than welcome. Have a great day, Marie. Stay safe, and everybody else joining us today, please stay safe. And we'll see you again on the Learn Live channel tomorrow at 4:30. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.
Welcome to this live chat facility tutorial. We have had a lot of questions recently about the chat facility and how to use it. So let's get into the video. The chat facility is built with students in mind, with a tool that doesn't need to be parent or teacher led. Each of our pages are linked to the person behind the broadcast, even after it's finished, so you can always ask your questions and get a response about the broadcast. So let's have a look at how to use the chat facility. To use the chat facility, the first thing to do is to type your comment or question into the chat box. You can now enter your screen name. Your screen name will show when you type your question or comment. Now you will see the chat facility ask for your email address. As I mentioned before, each of our pages are linked to people from the organisation who can reply to your questions. You can enter your email address, which will not be shared with anyone, to get a direct response from the people behind the broadcast. If you do not want a direct response, then click the button at the bottom. People behind the broadcast can still respond to you if you don't provide your email address. This just means you may have to come back to the page to check the response. You can now speak to the people behind the broadcast and ask any questions you may have, or check out our partner pages to see the companies we work with who you can speak to right now about their current vacancies. You can also check out our careers page, which connects you to employers. Our live chat service is linked 24/7 to employers from a wide range of sectors, all waiting to hear from you. You can leave a question about how to produce a professional CV or how to prepare for interviews, anything work related, and one of our businesses will respond to you directly. You can also access a wide variety of live interactive broadcasts and video on demand with the live chat support on all pages. Now, this bit is for the parents, guardians, and teachers. The best bit about the live chat facility is that it is completely moderated, so you don't need to worry if your young person leaves a silly comment, as it will only show on their screen and no one else's. Another great thing about the chat facility is that it is GDPR protected, so no information is shared with anyone else. We will protect all email addresses and will never share personal information of the young people. If you have any questions about the chat facility or the Learn Live channel, please use the email us icon at the top of the page. Thank you, stay safe and stay tuned. Welcome to this live chat facility tutorial. We have had a lot of questions recently about the chat facility and how to use it, so let's get into the video. The chat facility is built with students in mind, with a tool that doesn't need to be parent or teacher led. Each of our pages are linked to the person behind the broadcast, even after it's finished, so you can always ask your questions and get a response about the broadcast. So, let's have a look at how to use the chat facility. To use the chat facility, the first thing to do is to type your comment or question into the chat box. You can now enter your screen name. Your screen name will show when you type your question or comment. Now you will see the chat facility ask for your email address. As I mentioned before, each of our pages are linked to people from the organisation who can reply to your questions. You can enter your email address, which will not be shared with anyone, to get a direct response from the people behind the broadcast. If you do not want a direct response, then click the button at the bottom. People behind the broadcast can still respond to you if you don't provide your email address. This just means you may have to come back to the page to check the response. You can now speak to the people behind the broadcast and ask any questions you may have, or check out our partner pages to see the companies we work with who you can speak to right now about their current vacancies. You can also check out our careers page, which connects you to employers. Our live chat service is linked 24/7 to employers from a wide range of sectors, all waiting to hear from you. You can leave a question about how to produce a professional CV or how to prepare for interviews, anything work related, and one of our businesses will respond to you directly. You can also access a wide variety of live interactive broadcasts and video on demand with the live chat support on all pages. Now, this bit is for the parents, guardians, and teachers. The best bit about the live chat facility is that it is completely moderated, so you don't need to worry if your young person leaves a silly comment, as it will only show on their screen and no one else's. Another great thing about the chat facility is that it is GDPR protected, so no information is shared with anyone else. We will protect all email addresses and will never share personal information of the young people. If you have any questions about the chat facility or the Learn Live channel, please use the email us icon at the top of the page. Thank you, stay safe and stay tuned.